lead us in invocation when we get to there, please?
Yes, Mayor.
All right, thank you. This time, the mayor will call to order the regular city council meeting for 6 p.m. Tuesday, April the 5th, 2022, in the city council chambers, 201 East Nash Street, Terrell, Texas. We have in the chambers Mayor Ronnie Velasquez, Mayor Pro Tem District 3. We have remote Grady Simpson, District 2. And not with us tonight is Stephanie Holmes Thomas, Deputy Mayor Pro Tem District 4, and Tim Royce, District 5. They are excused. We do have a quorum present. This time I'd like to invite Pastor Ed Johnson from the Union Valley Baptist Church to come forward and lead us in invocation. And then if you would please remain standing for the pledge. Thank you.
Let us pray. Father God, we come in the name of Jesus. We come acknowledging, God, that you God all by your side, all by yourself. You're God that rule and super rule over this whole wide world. We come, Lord, saying thank you, and thank you for your grace, and thank you for your tender mercy. For Lord, you have been good to us. Thank you for the many blessings you've afforded to us. Thank you for the free country that we live in. Thank you for this nation. We thank you for the many liberties we enjoy. Thank you for free speech, democracy. We thank you for freedom to worship and freedom to be able to do what normally those are not able to do in other countries. Now, Lord, we come asking that you would have mercy on our brothers and sisters in the Ukraine. Have mercy on the soldiers on the battlefield, the women, the children, the senior citizens, all who are in harm's way. We pray for peace. We beg that freedom would reign, that love, joy, and peace, and that peace would get the victory. We ask for your presence, and we ask that you shower your blessings down upon this city, upon the city of Terrell. Bless the mayor, bless all of his cabinet, Lord. And then, Lord, we just pray for your presence this evening, that you would guide our thoughts, our minds, as we transact the business for this city. We pray and we thank you for your grace and for your tender mercy. Thank you for showing up in this place. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. Thank you, Pastor. We appreciate you being with us tonight. At this time, we have mayor, council, community recognition, and events. We are going to turn over to Ms. LaCroix, Shane LaCroix, police chief, fire chief, to do a recognition of the fire department. Chief, would you please come forward?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to ask for Battalion Chief Eric James come up, and he's going to talk about the situation in which we want to recognize.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We appreciate these opportunities. In our business, things don't always work out well, and so when they do, it's nice to show the guys recognition and so forth. So, unfortunately, we're missing a couple of gentlemen tonight. Perhaps more importantly, the subject of the call. Due to the outcome of this particular emergency, he had a follow-up doctor's visit today, which is a good thing, right? So he's likely stuck in traffic, probably west of here on that bridge. I can't remember the name of that town, but so anyway, he's unable to make it, as well as the neighbor who was vital in the survival of this patient. But we'll talk more about him in a bit. It's my understanding they'll be recognized at a later date, which I believe is important. So this is an emergency call for service that had a positive outcome, and that we're going to recognize tonight. However, before we get to that, I'd like to talk about this particular crew, Captain Angel, Chris Davis, Bobby McHugh. They have a knack for recognizing ways to serve beyond what we're called to do. And it was just a few months ago, Captain Angel called me in the middle of the night when he identified an underlying need for one of our citizens. His statement to me was, "I can't in good conscience leave her like this." And so the guys sprung into action, and ultimately she was in an unsafe environment that she needed to be removed from. She recognized that. She reached out to us to help. Within 48 hours, this lady was in a brand new assisted living room with donated goods from the fire department, from the guys, brand new bed, sofa, the whole 9 yards. And at last check, she was thriving in that environment. Domino champion, I think is what they told us about her. Shortly after that, more recently, these guys responded to a bicyclist who was struck by a vehicle, and the gentleman needed to go to the hospital. He didn't want to go. He didn't want to leave his bicycle. It was his only mode of transportation. It's how he got to work. But after some convincing from Captain Angel to take possession of the bicycle and take it back to the station, the man agreed to go get the care he needed. These guys got the bicycle back to the station and immediately tried to repair it. When they realized they couldn't repair it, they just went and bought a new bicycle. Just never blinked. That's what they do. So, but that's not exactly what we're here for tonight. We're here for the nuts and bolts of what we do, and I'll get to that. On November 11th, 2021, TFD's Engine 611 was dispatched to an address on North Rockwall Street for someone experiencing difficulties in breathing. Upon arrival, Engine 611 found a bystander performing CPR on a 58-year-old male who was unconscious and not breathing. Engine 611 immediately assessed the patient and confirmed the patient had no vital signs and resumed CPR. The bystander stated he came to the residence to take the now unconscious male to the hospital because he was having trouble breathing. Shortly after the bystander's arrival, the patient, who was in the process of getting ready to leave for the hospital, suddenly experienced a cardiac event which left him unconscious with no pulse or respirations. The bystander, Mr. Johnny Stallings, who's a hero in this, contacted 911, immediately began CPR while he waited on first responders. Took the guys about 5 minutes to get there, and I can tell you that 5 minutes of CPR by yourself feels like 5 hours, but he wasn't willing to give up. The crew of Engine 611, while performing CPR, placed an OPA or oropharyngeal airway into the patient's mouth to assist the opening of the airway, while another crew member started an IV and administered 1 milligram of epinephrine. Those are those advanced life support skills that we're focused on now at the Terrell Fire Department. 2 minutes after the administration of epi, CPR was paused as prescribed and vitals were reassessed. It was during this reassessment that it was discovered the patient had regained a pulse with an organized rhythm. So they got him back. The transport ambulance had arrived at this point, and the patient was moved to the stretcher into the back of the ambulance. Once in the ambulance, the patient was hooked up to the ambulance's monitoring equipment for continuous monitoring during transport. It was decided that the patient would be flown via care flight helicopter to the hospital. The patient was being readied for flight, and it was time for the patient. At that time, the patient began to deteriorate, so additional cardiac drugs were administered, but the patient went into ventricular fibrillation, or VFib, and became pulseless once again. Paramedics immediately responded with a defibrillation shock and performed 1 round of CPR. An advanced airway was inserted into the patient, and placement confirmed by end-tidal carbon dioxide. Return of spontaneous circulation was once again achieved, and the patient was accompanied by 2 Terrell Fire Department medics to the airport to rendezvous with a helicopter. So they got him back twice. So at this time, I would like for the council to recognize Captain Michael Angel, Bobby McHugh, firefighter paramedic. Not here tonight is Kyle Zakursky, who's a driver engineer and was on the ALS call that we just described. And I'd also like to recognize Chris Davis, who was on the other two incidents that I described with the lady and the bicycle.
Well, gentlemen, I'd like to say thank you on behalf of the mayor and the council for your emergency care on Engine 11. Is that your group, right?
611, yes, sir.
611, Engine 611. And the recognition and the response that you had for that individual. It makes us all proud of your work as a firefighter and a lifesaver, right, for our citizens. More than that, though, your efforts in buying this individual a new bicycle as well, and then stepping up when you're needed for all of our citizens, right, is very important, and we want to say thank you. Let's get a photo before you head out, please. Mayor Ronnie, is there anything you'd like to add?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I'd like to close with one statement. There's a lot of things that have to come together for these incidents to end positively, all right? So obviously these guys were trained and efficient. The neighbor was unwilling to give up on his friend. Dispatcher did a fantastic job. CareFlight did a fantastic job. But let's not overlook what you guys have done for us over the last few years. You've decided to make an investment in us, and you've set us up to be successful, and we certainly appreciate that.
Well, thank you again. You know what? And our investment has paid off, you know, and it's easy now that we hear these reports from all the money that we've put into the programs, right? When you come forward and you ask for and you receive funding for certain areas, that it's obviously paying off for our citizens. So it's a win-win for all of us. Thank you.
Mayor, I agree. You know, I certainly had a preview to some of this information from Chief last week, and I was excited and also amazed to know that our firefighters, and also I'll mention our Firefighters Association, go above and beyond the duty when the call comes. To hear that, you know, you spend some of your own funds or help secure funds for basic needs or a bicycle for community members, and you don't and we don't necessarily highlight those because you're not looking for the recognition. You're going above and beyond the call. So please know that we appreciate you, and I'm going to speak on behalf of our council members who aren't here, who have also chosen, as the mayor said, to invest, going from ALS to BLS and certifications to make sure that we do have the best here in the city of Terrell. So thank you all.
If you could, let's get a
Just want a picture?
Yes, please.
Okay. What's that?
Why you come back up here?
Come over here, you gotta get in the photo.
Where y'all want us to be at?
Right, get over here.
Yes,
Do you want to sit by him or
Yes.
stand by him? Can I stand over on the outside?
I guess I
There
shall.
we go. Chief, Shane, you need to get in.
It's gonna be a big picture.
Can we get it?
Read all the fire department in. Come on up. It's okay, come on up.
Are we good?
Yeah. Chief McKean, we don't play with, but.
Mayor Ronnie, did you have someone
I d-
as well?
Yes, Mayor, and I think, let's see, we still have, I had to see, I make sure Ed Johnson, Pastor Ed Johnson was still here today. I certainly want to make sure to mention and highlight MLK celebration of Terrell. Due to unfortunate circumstances, they had to move their Martin Luther King Day celebration to last night. And every year that I attend, or whether it's virtually, it just keeps getting better. So I certainly want to commend them, and I'll certainly mention Deacon Malcolm as well, because they choose to honor, you know what, a great role model, Martin Luther King, and then also honor all the service that has been done in the city of Terrell and highlight those community members. And we also have the school district in the room today, Dr. Georgianne Warnock, and Ms. Dina Reisinger, our chair for the Terrell ISD school board trustees. And a big thank you to them as well for always working with the community to allow the use of their facilities to promote the good that is happening in the city of Terrell.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Is there anyone else? Grady, you good? At this time, we will move on. Next item on the agenda is to hear remarks from visitors. Do we have any? No, we don't have any. The next item on the agenda is to adopt minutes of the meeting. Discuss and consider minutes of the regular city council meeting on March 29th of 2022. Is there a motion? Any corrections?
I move to approve the meeting minutes from the regular city council meeting on March 29th, 2022 as presented.
We have a motion from Mayor Ronnie Velasquez, Mayor Pro Tem District 3. Is there a second?
I second.
A second from Grady Simpson, District 2. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion will carry. Our next item on the agenda is boards and commissions. Discuss and consider building standards commission appointments and reappointments. Don?
Mayor and council, in your packet is a list of Building Standards Commission, the board roster, and this board has not been active since 2018. There is a list at the very back of that section that shows the people that the Municipal Development Department has contacted and that they would like to have appointed or reappointed. Ricky Jordan was on there before. He would like to be reappointed. Stephen Austin as well, Carrie Harwell, and Gary Weems. And Hope Covington as well.
Okay.
So
So this falls under
Tim Royce.
Councilmember Tim Royce's board, and he's not with us tonight. Is there any reason why we would need to, is this just a discussion item? It is. Or should we?
We had it as action, but if you'd like to, and I think it'd be appropriate to just put it in the pass group,
Okay.
postpone.
So we need a motion to postpone, and it'll be the date of next Tuesday,
12th, yeah.
12th. April 19th.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, 19th.
Okay. So we would need a motion to postpone till April the 19th. May I have a motion?
Yes, Mayor. May I make a motion that we postpone the Building Standards Commission 2022 elect officials for April 12th, 2022.
We have a motion, April the 19th, to postpone. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second from Mayor, we have a motion from Grady Simpson, District 2. We have a second from Mayor Ronnie Velasquez, Mayor Pro Tem, District 3. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor let it be known by stating aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? That motion will carry. Our next item for discussion is a presentation from the Terrell Independent School District. This will be our TISD Superintendent, Dr. Georgianne Warnock. And if you would, Dr. Warnock, introduce who you have with us in the back.
Sure,
Please.
absolutely. Thank you.
And welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Carmona, and our esteemed city council members and city manager. Thank you so much for having us. It is Absolutely my pleasure to serve as a superintendent of schools. And with us tonight, we have Dina Reisinger, who serves as our wonderful board president, the ultimate volunteers, like our city councilmen, our school board trustees, and Matt Malone, who has served as the chairman of our bond committee for our community. So we are just thrilled to have the opportunity tonight. We so appreciate the partnership that the school district has with the city, and to be able to share information with you about the upcoming bond election that our school board has called for May of 2022. And then we'd also be happy to answer any questions that the council has. We had a rigorous planning process as a school district as we considered what the long-term facility needs were for our school district. We had a diverse committee that included a cross-section of Terrell citizens that met over several months. We had between 40 and 50 members participated at each one of our sessions. We toured every campus and looked at quite a bit of information, including a detailed facility study. We had hired a evaluator to come in and look at every nook and cranny, rooftop, air conditioning, kitchen, every bit of our facilities, and to assess our mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and HVAC, to look at food service, roofing, structures, as well as classroom capacity. That company gave us a facilities condition index. That is a score that each of our campuses received. And out of 7 of our campuses, 5 of those scored a poor to critical FCI, just meaning that the life cycle needs of the buildings, with the particular attention to mechanical, electrical, plumbing, are in need of some significant repair. The THS East and West campuses both scored in that critical range. We also have been consulting with the demographer each quarter to give us projections on our district growth. And you know, as the city, we've had several partnership meetings and looking at the growth that's coming and how we manage that as a city and a school district. We know that our enrollment will grow by at least 1,500 students by 2030. That's a 31% increase. So we're expecting additional enrollment of Terrell High School to be added to our district in the next few years. Our K-5 will exceed capacity beginning in 26-27. So even with redistricting, we would not have enough seats for the projected number of elementary students to be enrolled in our current schools. We anticipate that FMS by next year will be at 93% capacity, and THS will be at 99% capacity. We know we've seen different projections. Kaufman County somewhere between the first and third fastest growing county in the nation. I saw the Tribune reporting that maybe it moved up to first percentage-wise based on census data. But when we look at the growth that's happening all over our county, and with the knowledge that we currently have 14,500 lots in future development, our team, the committee, looked at all of that data as they considered a bond proposal to bring to our Board of Trustees. The bond proposal consists of 2 propositions for a total amount of $95 million. And the reason why there's 2 propositions is that 2 legislative sessions ago, the legislature decided that any bond proposition that had to do with athletics, fine arts, or technology for school districts had to be considered in a separate proposition. So academic facilities can be considered in one global proposition, and then those arts, athletics have to be considered separately. So let's take a look at the first, Proposition A. We look at what's included there is a new K-5 elementary school, about $37.5 million there. That would include purchase of land, should the, we talked about some donations of land that are also possible. This would allow for the construction of a 600-student elementary school with the central spaces serving 800 and the ability to add on classroom wings to get to a max capacity of 800 to help us address those capacity issues and that projected growth. At Terrell High School, where we saw the the FCI score in that critical area, we would like to begin a phased reconstruction of the high school. This is about $31 million, and this would unite the west and east campus by creating a new student union and commons, and then also provide renovations to the 2 cafeterias that are currently 1 cafeteria each at East and West campus, the kitchens at East and West. It would also allow for remodeling, to have a new Tigerette gym. We'd have a new cafe space, as well as central plant, which controls the air and heat, and all of those systems are original to the building. So that's been since the 60s that the air and heat systems have been there. Our next update and repair at every school is $26 million. When we had the facilities assessment done, we identified about $55 million of life cycle or just extended maintenance costs that are needed. And our maintenance team went in and prioritized what was really tier 1 and came to this amount that the community committee felt needed to be included in the package. And that includes facility life cycle needs, reimagined playgrounds, and some library, classroom, and security upgrades. In terms of the life cycle needs, we'll be looking at improved HVAC and ventilation systems at our campuses, central plant renovation and replacement, roof replacements, water and sewer replacements, and fire sprinkler systems. That's not the fun stuff to get to talk about in a bond package, but it's certainly really important to the safe operation of our schools. We also want to bring reimagined playgrounds to the school district. At one point in time, the school district operated with intermediate and primary campuses. The model was shifted between 2016 and 2018 to a K-5 model. And when that happened, the playground equipment wasn't updated at the same time. So we have some campuses that previously were K2 that only have K2 playground equipment, but now they have 3rd through 5th graders. And the reverse, we have some campuses with 3rd through 5th grade sized playgrounds, but we now have kindergartners attending there. So this would update our equipment. It would give us much safer surfaces in and around the equipment, and also allow for accessibility. Right now, our students have mobility issues that are in walkers, wheelchairs, or have other mobility impairments, are unable to access our playgrounds. And so this would be a re-envisioning of that for full accessibility. We believe in prioritizing early literacy in our school district, and this bond election would allow for the expansion of library spaces at Long, at Wood Elementary, and at Furlow Middle School. Those are library spaces that are really too small for the number of students that we're serving, and we want those to be spaces that we bring the community into. It would also allow for the renovation of a library at W.H. Burnett, and we would expand the music room at J.W. Long. Additionally, we'd have safety and security upgrades at all campuses. In the second proposition, we'd be looking at some HVAC needs and some life cycle needs at the Jamie Foxx Performing Arts Center. This is really a lifeblood place in our community. We have over 70 events there every year for the community and for our student performances, and this would be providing those life cycle needs that need to be replaced. So the important thing here is that our community committee felt very strongly that the bond election not increase our tax rate. And so the tax impact here is zero. We have been very strategic in our financial management that will allow for this $95 million of bond to be approved and sold without impacting our current tax rate. The voting opportunities that we have as citizens, early early voting begins April 25th and goes through May 3rd, and the deadline to register is just 2 days from now. I know you are all registered, but we want to make sure our public is registered and participates in that process. And then our election day is Saturday, May 7th. We have additional information for anyone in the community that would like at www.terrellisdbond.com. And we also, on our social media, will be sharing a series of community meetings that will be open. We'll have some in the evenings and in the mornings at Excel and all of our elementary campuses. So there'll be 4 different meeting opportunities for community members to be able to come and learn more, to ask questions, and we're excited to engage with the community about what's happening in our schools. So we'd be happy to answer any questions. And I also would be remiss if I did not invite our board president, Ms. Reisinger, just to come and share a few words. This was a unanimous decision by the board to bring this important decision to our taxpayers.
Dina, would you come forward, please? I hate to put you on the spot, but anytime we get you in the council chambers, we certainly want to hear from you.
Well,
Yes.
you're great. It's always a pleasure to be here, and I have to thank this special group. The city has been so good to our family, so please know that, please. I do have to say, it was a unanimous vote. We did not take it lightly. We spent many hours trying to decide, is this the right thing? Is it the right time? I think that was the most important thing, is it the right time? It's the right time. I personally have to spend an eternity knowing, did I do the right thing for our school and for our community? And we have a wonderful superintendent, does a wonderful job. So we come to you and do ask you for your vote, and just thank you for all your support that you give to us.
Yeah, Dina, I would like to say in public while you're here is thank you for your service to our children, right, our kids. You and the board have done an excellent job. Dr. Warnock, you've proved to be everything that I've heard and leading this charge. I think the most important thing for us, council, and for those that are listening is the partnership that the city and the school district currently have and have cultivated and are growing with. We are the #1 fastest growing county in the United States, and Terrell's part of this county. And so part of that is the school district's going to grow as well. Love the idea that the $95 million will not affect our tax rate. And when you can do that, that's a win-win for everybody involved. So thank you for your hard work. I know they're tough decisions, but they have to be made, and you have to prepare for growth. Councilwoman, would you like to make a comment?
No, but certainly a big thank you to both Dr. Warnock and our chair board, Ms. Dina Reisinger, for being here today and explaining not only to us, but to all those listening, the ins and outs, describing what the future, what lies ahead in the future, and what steps you're taking, using is it the right time to make sure that we're prepared for the future. And as the mayor stated, one of the important things about this bond is that there's not a tax rate increase. And I think many times our voters have that main question, right? Is it going to raise my taxes? I was just going down towards South Texas this weekend in another community, and they are calling a much larger bond election than we are. And I asked, so are you going to have to increase your taxes, or are they going to stay the same? And they're going to have to increase their taxes to make sure that they maintain their campuses and are prepared for the future. So I think I think anytime that we can ease the burden of taxes of our community members is great to hear. So thank you both, and to our chair, Mr. Malone as well.
Can I just
Yes.
I get asked questions from time to time about this program, and I'll just kind of tell you what I've been asked and what I've said, because I think it's important, because people tend to ask all the same questions, right? One question is the demographic side of it, and I can tell you we're very plugged in. We work with the county all the time in the ETJ area and outlying developments. We certainly know what's coming here. I would say, yeah, they did their homework, and those demographic projections are spot on. We really know what's happening now. We can project water sales and things like that. So they did their homework there, and they're spot on the water side of it. Another question we get asked, I think, is actually the kind of one that puts a smile on my face, because I'm an old school, if you own it, take care of it. And yes, They did do their homework on the facilities. We engage with them from time to time on those topics, and I can assure you, they're not doing some of those facilities because they're fun and flashy. They're doing those facilities because they were built so long ago that they just simply need the work. And it would be unfair to the kids going to those classes every day to not do the work. Because what you're doing, if you don't vote for the bond, is you're saying that it's okay if those kids are sitting there sweating in bad weather days. And when it's hot outside, they're sweating, and that doesn't make any sense, you know. So kudos to them for doing the hard work on that. And then the last question is the financial one. And again, same issue there. Can we really be sure that there isn't a tax rate increase with this? And again, I would tell you that they've got an excellent financial team over there. And again, we've talked through this, and I think that it's spot on to say that they've got their financial projections correct. I was speaking with the county judge today. We had a meeting here recently with the Kaufman Central Appraisal District. These are knowable numbers. The data is out there to tell us whether or not this makes sense, that this is a no tax increase. And I'd just say flat out, you know, that's true. There's no worry about whether or not those projections are off. We've seen that from the Kaufman Central Appraisal District. So anyway, those are questions I get asked. I thought I'd share those and pass on what I've answered when I've been asked those. So.
All right, thank you. Reggie, did you have any comment?
Yes, Mayor. I'd just like to say, great job. Congratulations, John Superintendent, and Dr. Rice and our board. This is a dream come true for me because I know for a long time when I got on the council, the city and the school district did not have this type of relationship. But I just want everybody to be encouraged. When we're trying to build relationships and build a great city and have a great school district, we all have to be patient because we just have to give it time for our work.
Thank you, Greg. I hate to cut you off. We're having some difficulty with your mic, but I think he's saying congratulations and good work is what he's trying to tell you. But thank y'all so much for coming tonight, and we certainly appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Matt, thank you for being here as well. Did you want to say anything?
Oh, I'm good. I'll be back to bend all your ears.
Well, yeah, okay. Wonderful. Thank y'all very much. Okay. Our next item on the agenda is discuss Fire Station Number 3. This is Fire Chief Shane LaCroix.
Mayor, as he's queuing that PowerPoint up, I'll tell you that this is sort of our version of, well, we're growing and we're going to have to do new and different things.
Right.
For us, whenever we talk about growth, one of the things we've known we needed to do is build Fire Station Number 3. Shane and I have been working on this quite a bit. There's not just a build it cost here, there's a build it and operate it and staff it cost. And so that's what we've been trying to polish up. And this is really just a snapshot about where we stand in our current planning work.
All right. Go ahead, Chief.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. You know, what I bring before you this evening is a proposed timeline to fulfill the recommendations of a recent fire station study that we had. You know, I'd like to begin with a brief review of the fire station study that we'll be referring to throughout the presentation. So in January of 2020, you know, we contracted with Mike Peach Consulting Services to perform, you know, a station assessment or study of our current number and locations of fire stations with present and anticipated service demands. Other elements that we looked at or considered during the assessment was industry standards and the Insurance Service Office, or ISO's, public protection classification requirements. Now, the ISO rating system, or public protection classification, is a score or rating from 1 to 10, with 1 being the best or the highest. You know, this score is awarded to fire departments based on the results of the assessment conducted by ISO, their field assessors. The score or classification reflects the adequacy of the fire department in protecting the community in the event of a fire. This score is also used by area insurance companies, you know, to determine rates for fire insurance, and that is charged to the homeowner and the business owners in that community. The score or classification is reassessed by ISO every 4 to 5 years. TFD's, or Terrell Fire Department's last ISO rating was done in 2017. The ISO rating system assesses many variables to reach its final classification designation. So I utilize a consultant with extensive knowledge of ISO rating criteria and also experience in fire station master planning. Peach Consulting Services is known for his extensive experience in ISO ratings since the primary owner, Mr. Peach, he was employed by ISO for over 30 years. And he actually developed the rating system for ISO, which has been utilized to establish the ISO rating for more than 2,000 communities. He's considered the foremost expert in ISO and has provided ISO consulting for fire stations and, master planning of approximately 500 communities, with the city of Terrell utilizing his services back in 2005. So in February 2021, you may recall back in February that I provided an initial presentation of the study and its recommendations. So the methodology of the study utilizes 4 core principles: a 1.5-mile response boundary, which approximates a 4-minute response time for an engine company. This is considered to be, the exact methodology that is used by ISO. A 2.5-mile response boundaries for a truck company. Now, I should note that, a truck company is required when the following exists. There exists 5 or more buildings 3 stories or greater in height, or there's 5 or more buildings with a 4,000 GPM requirement, our fire flow requirement, or there exists 5 or more buildings that are 32 feet in height from the ground to the lowest roof level, or any one of the 3 combinations. Also, part of the core principles is that a 5 road mile to a fire station in developing and future developing areas was used. Any developed areas outside of a 5-mile polygon of a fire station is given an ISO rating of 10, which is no recognized fire protection. And then lastly, accessibility to a credible training facility. And currently, there are no credible training facilities in Kaufman County. So looking at the map, it demonstrates the 1.5-mile response boundaries are the 4-minute engine response areas. The red polygon indicates Station 1, and the yellow is the polygon for Station 2. As you can see, there's quite a bit of overlap in the center. So this overlap really makes both stations inefficient. So they need to be further apart so that we get basically the most bang for our buck for each one of these fire stations. So the study recommendations. The study identified the following needs in order to maintain an effective emergency response service now and into the future, as well as what would be required to maintain the department's current ISO rating of 2. So to relocate both Station 1 and Station 2. The strategic placement of existing and future fire stations is critical to the department's emergency response capabilities and the ISO rating for the city. Too fast. Build a 3rd station to be located in the west-southwest side of the city. He increased staffing levels to 16 firefighters to allow for Station 3 staffing and to ensure that the minimal staffing levels is maintained 24/7 for all station apparatus. You know, just adding a fire station without adding staffing does nothing for meeting demands for ISO. Purchase a frontline apparatus to respond out of Station 3. Build a credible facility adjacent to one of the 3 fire stations. Fire administration would be part of this project with space for a secondary EOC. Now, a credible training facility consists of, ISO requires that, you know, each firefighter receive 12 hours of training, of drill field training each year. In prior ISO ratings, like documents as far as they were using the 2003 edition, training field credit for off-site drills were allowed. So such as, you know, a donated house to train in, or rappelling off of a building, or pumping from a city park was considered a drill field. However, in 2012 edition of the ISO rating system, Texas adopted in March of 2015. It only gives training field credit for drills at a credible facility. So a credible facility consists of, all right. Oh, over here. There we go. A 3-story or taller drill field, most are 4 to 5 stories. Fire-resistant fire or smoke building. Flammable liquid pit of at least 1,500 square feet. Must be at least on 2 acres of land. So now if we're looking at the map, the polygon indicates, you know, Station 1 is in red, Station 2 being in yellow, and then the future fire station to be in blue. You know, the map's showing an equal distribution or redistribution of fire station in accordance with a 1.5 4-minute response boundary. The yellow polygon indicates the recommended response area for fire station number 2. The study recommended to be relocated in the vicinity of Highway 34 and East British Fine School Boulevard. It also recommends that we deploy an engine company and the existing truck company out of that station. The red polygon indicates the, you know, recommended response area for Station 1. The study recommends relocating Station 1 to the vicinity of Rockwall and State, deploying an engine company. Blue polygon indicates or identifies the recommended response area for new fire station number 3. The study recommends locating Station 3 in the vicinity of Tejas Drive and FM 148, and it'd be deploying an engine company. You know, the single most critical item when addressing developed areas or areas to be developed in the future is to ensure that all built-up areas are within a 5 mile of a fire station, 5 road miles of a fire station deploying an engine. As mentioned earlier, develop areas outside of a 5-mile polygon of a fire station housing the fire company are assigned to ISO rating of 10, which is no recognized fire protection. That's regardless of the water supply infrastructure. Currently, several insurance companies are refusing to write or renew properties in Class 10 areas. So this is an example of what we're looking for. This piece of property is one that we're talking with, but it's off of Jameson Court. In the areas that we're looking at, what makes this a special spot for us, it gives us more than one way to respond out of the area. One, we can hit Jameson Court to Apache Trail. The other is it has access to Tejas Drive. And then there's even going to be future roads built so we can get out to Metro. So it's a perfect location. And other areas that make that perfect is we're in an industrial park. And so when you build a drill field, you got to take care of your neighbors, basically. And, you know, we wouldn't be able disturbing them with the noise, the smoke, and things like that. So I think that makes it another good area, you know, in which we do a combination with a fire station and a drill field. Since Ken's here, I'll call it the Public Safety Training Facility. You know, the addition of a credible training facility will provide much more than just ISO credits. Although that too is important. You know, a training facility offers much more. Operating as a member of a fire department is not much unlike being a member of a sports team, except the cost for losing is much higher. Like a sports team, to be good, you must practice, and the more you practice, the better you should get. When you do practice, you practice in an environment in which you play. For example, basketball team, you know, they practice on a basketball court. Football team, practice on a football field, and a baseball team practices on a baseball diamond. In the firefighter's world, practice enhances awareness. It broadens abilities and it sharpens crucial skills, which can mean the difference between life and death for themselves, their teammates, and or those that they're sworn to protect. Just like a sports team, firefighters must train in an environment in which they are expected to perform if they are to be truly effective. A training facility would provide the opportunity to simulate the environments that firefighters are expected to perform in. Doing so would improve operational safety on emergency incidents. You know, it's going to increase efficiency when delivering service, reinforce and support the department's progressive mission, and meet the training requirements of ISO. And then Grady's going to be in the way for this last one, but it'll allow the TFD to become the training hub for the Kaufman County Fire Departments, which, you know, we're setting the trends in the department and in the county, and this gives us the ability to even further that. You know, on a final note, you know, since I became, you know, the fire chief here in Terrell in 2018, you know, I've prioritized training for department personnel. Each year we've increased training offerings, but we also increased training requirements with positive results. In 2017, there were no recorded training for personnel. 2018, we moved up to 192 hours. 2019, it grew to 1,500 hours. And in 2020 and 21, it has raised to 2,700 hours. This would not have been the case without the continual support that council has provided. Your support in passing the education certification pay plan has greatly impacted the training hours attained by department personnel, but it also demonstrated to personnel that we're committed to their professional development. Providing a training facility will reinforce this commitment, as well as our commitment to their safety. So ISO concerns. So the relocation of our existing fire stations, 1 and 2, the addition of 1 additional fire station with a credible training facility is critical in maintaining the department's ISO public protection classification of 2. If our ISO classification were to drop from a PPC, would say public protection classification, from a 2 to a 3, commercial property owners within 5 miles from a fire station, 1,000 feet from a hydrant, would see the annual cost for insurance increase by possibly 2%. Residential property owners within that same 5 miles of a fire station, 1,000 feet from a hydrant, will see their homeowner premiums increase by a possible of 8%. You know, TFD's last ISO rating was done in 2017 and went into effect on January 1, 2018. ISO does not have a specific time period in which they will come to reassess the rating, but historically, it's been somewhere around every 4 to 5 years, which kind of puts us right at that time period. Although maintaining the department's ISO, again, is important, the department's ability to provide time-sensitive, critical emergency services overshadows that. So on this map, it kind of shows, this is in the proposed district for Station 3. And you can see by the blue columns, those calls for service. But you can also see the red, which is our average response time. Now, the calls have went up, but so has the response times. That's not because the guys are getting out slow or anything else. It's due with traffic, just getting over in that area. The request for services in the recommended fire station area has grown exponentially over the last 3 years. And all indications are that it will continue to grow as the area becomes more and more developed. So we've seen a 235% increase in calls since 2019. Additionally, our overlapping calls, these are calls that come in when we're already on a call, has continued to increase. Currently, it's around 45 to 48%. When I started here, it was like 30%. So when a call drops and we send an engine, then another call drops, we send a truck. We're out of resources at that point. Now, how we've been doing it and taking care of business so far is that we're able to break away the battalion to respond so that we can get somebody there. But as those numbers continue to rise up, it's going to be harder and harder for us to do that. So, that's not sustainable in the long run, and so, more response resources are needed to stay up with the demand. The fun part now. So fire station number 3. So we created a budgetary timeline. So looking at FY22, which is the year that we're in. So we're still looking to find a suitable fire station location for Station 3. That will have enough room for a drill field and our fire admin added into it. Budget impact, it don't cost much to look. FY23. So our plan would be by October of this year, October to December, that we go ahead and make the purchase of that land. We find it and make the purchase so that we'll be ready to start the process. In January, we'd request RFQs for the fire station complex build, award a contractor, and concept cost estimates. We'll apply for the SAFER grant. You'll have to ride with me on this. So the plan would be that, the SAFER grant opens in January, and we would apply for that grant for 10 additional firefighters. So the budget impact, we're looking at the land acquisition could be 1.3 to 1.5. The concept estimate, around 25,000. So remember here, though, in January for the SAFER, we're going to be looking at 10 to try to hire. But when we move into FY24, we should be ready to build, start construction on the fire station. And if the 2023 SAFER grant was awarded, then we'd begin hiring for the 10 firefighters. If it wasn't awarding, then we begin hiring for 6 additional. So in this budget year, 6 was what we would budget for. If we get the SAFER, then great, we don't spend that money. But we need to be hiring firefighters each time. And we've split it up for multiple reasons, but main reason being is that when somebody comes into the fire department, they go in our FTO program. We have FTOs that do that training that makes that transition from wherever they came from into Terrell Fire Department. We only have so many. They can only oversee so many folks. So bringing them in close to a year apart, basically, would give us the ability to get these guys through that training program and ready to be off on their own. So when the next group comes in, then we're ready to move them through. We'd also need to order a new fire engine for Station 3 at this time. So in January of 2024, again, if the SAFER grant was awarded, then we'll apply for 6 firefighters in the 2024 SAFER grant. So if we got 10 the first time, then we'll apply for 6 for this go around. If we didn't get the 10, then we're going to apply for 10 for this budget year. Also in April, we have it slated that we would do our promotional processes so that we can go and get our captains and our drivers promoted. So again, they go through a probationary period so we can already have them ready to go when the station's ready to go. As you can see here, there's 4 captains. One of those captains needs to be for our assistant fire marshal's spot. So that we can, on our prevention side, we can shore it up so we can continue to move forward there. The budget impact. So we're looking at 10 to 12 million for the fire station and the drill field complex. Staffing for 6 firefighters, $510,000. PPE for 10, now we have to set it for 10 because if we get lucky and we get the SAFER, then we'll need to have it then. Which is $50,000, and new fire apparatus now is around $1 million. FY25. So in October 24, if the 2024 SAFER grant was awarded, then we'd begin that hiring process of the 6 firefighters. If the 2024 SAFER grant was not awarded, then we need to begin the hiring process for additional 10 firefighters. So kind of the way I have this worked out is, we try for the highest number by the SAFER grant, the first shot we have at it. And if we get it, then it moves us to the 6 for the next, the back-to-back application process. But if not, we just move it forward and then we go for 10 then. So that we get the grant for the highest number, basically, is what we're striving for. So in December 2024, we should receive the new fire engine. And in April 2025, hopefully we'd have Station 3 and the training complex open and ready to go. So the budget impact, staffing for the 10 firefighters, if without the grant, would be $850,000. PPE for 10 firefighters, again, we have to use that 10 numbers because we're not sure yet, one way or the other, would be the $50,000. And here it all is on one page. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So, Mayor and Council, let me just jump in here at the end and say one of my main goals in asking Shane to put all this thought into it and to detail all of this out is I think it's absolutely imperative that we show you all of this prior to your 3-year strategic plan adoption. I want everybody to really realize one of the main points we're going to work on over the next 3 years is figuring out how to get Fire Station 3 with the training field, with the training center, funded, built, implemented. When you see SAFER grant, in the past, the SAFER grant has been a percentage of the labor costs. Right now, they're doing it at 100%, so we're rooting for 100% for 3 years, but we don't know what they'll advertise. Sometimes that's been a 65%, sometimes it's been a 35%, sometimes it's been an 85%. So we'll root for 100% on that. I hope maybe they'll still be generous up there in DC, and we'll be able to get these grants for that. If not, that's going to be a big hit on our general fund budget. And then obviously, even if we do get the SAFER grant, then you just count your fiscal years until that funding rolls off and we have to incur the full cost of paying those. So that's some of the planning that we're doing. You'll see some of these things reflected in your 3-year strategic plan, your 5-year operational financial plan, and your 10-year capital plan. So all of the things should being shown here, they get pulled into your planning processes here as we work through the spring.
So my comment for you, Chief, and for the council is that, with growth comes challenges, both fiscal and certainly on the fire side of it and providing service to our citizens. But, we're up for the challenge. We're going to take a look at all of our options as we move forward. But our main goal should be to better serve our community. And how do we do that? How do we provide the service? We certainly want to be within that range of 1.5 mile response time. And is that a 4 or 5 minute response?
4 minutes.
4 minutes, yeah. So we want to do that and try to keep our ISO rating down for our citizens, our corporate citizens who benefit from the insurance side of it. I've been on the council for 2 terms previously, and Councilwoman Velasquez, I've never had a report so detailed from a fire chief as I did today. Right, so the details are there, and that's good, but the other thing I like about this is the analogy that Shane uses and compares to with teams in sports. I happen to play football with Shane. So if he wants to get me motivated and going on something, he knows to throw that sports analogy out there to get me fired up and rooting for our fire department, and I hope that we're able to get this done. I think it's the right thing for the city. I think it's the right thing for our citizens and corporate citizens to try and keep that ISO rating down. Mayor Ronnie, did you have any comment?
So Mayor, I expect no less than Chief bringing forth, asking for the best and bringing forth a detailed presentation as he's shown below. Certainly not a timeline to this extent, but it's greatly appreciated. I mentioned earlier that I was out of town, closer to South Texas this weekend, and I happened to drive by, not with enough time to stop. I happened to drive by a training facility. So I was the person in the passenger seat turning my neck to see how tall that training facility was. So while I can't go back, I don't intend to go back to South Texas to view that facility. What would be 1 or 2 of the closest facilities closest to us at this time?
We're looking at probably Mesquite. Rowlett just built one. Theirs is a more of a container approach. Now Kaufman County has one in Maybank, but it's maybe 1 or 2 stories, and it doesn't meet all the criteria that we need. So, when they changed it where we couldn't use acquired structures, that really made it imperative that, we build a training facility. In University Park, where I retired from, we had one there as well, and it was 4 stories as well. Because that's what they use for high angle type training. So if a window washer or whatever over here at one of the hotels, something happens, we've been able to train to be ready to perform a rescue if that's needed. So, and then again, it's you practice what you play. I mean, it's truly correct in this sense that we can only simulate so much, and the guys do a good job of pretending this and pretending that. But when you put them in a situation where you got smoke and you got heat, you really find out how they're going to respond. And we can also things that maybe we run into issues. Talking with the fire chief in Rowlett, that was his biggest takeaway from when they built their facility, was that they were having problems with real high voltage ceilings and pulling ceilings. And they were getting firemen in trouble because they wouldn't pull on them, and then they were having a collapse of those ceilings and then flames and things like that. But they were able to focus in, and they built their training facility to address those specific needs. And he says it instantly, he started seeing results from it. So, and
So, Council, a couple other quick little points here, just for frame of reference. We have a 4-story building downtown. We're about to start construction on another 4-story building downtown. We've talked to developers about doing a 6-story building downtown. We're under negotiations for a 5-story new hotel. We've talked to developers about building a new 4-story multifamily complex out by Crossroads. So we're building high, we're building up, and there's quite a bit of that going on. Also, all of this battle plan allows us to move the administrative offices that we're now leasing on 9th Street. Those would get relocated as part of a training facility as well. So just kind of a note there, we get to save a little money by moving out of the 9th Street facility.
Mike, I don't know if this is for you or for Shane, but I think what would be helpful for the council, myself as well, is to go and visit one of these training facilities or drill fields. Not just the field, but to be able to see it in operation, so we can get a good feel about what it is that we're wanting to do here. I think that would be a very good visit from
Yeah,
a
we
trip
can,
from the council.
absolutely, we can get that arranged for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
well, I got some bunker gear that'll fit you.
Yeah, no, I
We'll
don't wanna
take you
go
on the
in-
inside
You
tour.
misunderstood. I don't want to fight the fire. I want to watch them fight
You
the
don't have to fight it, you just go in with them.
Yeah, no, I think that would be a good thing. It's one thing to see it, hear about it, see photos, or even watch it on video, but to be there in person and you see the good that comes out of it is the better way to go for us, I believe.
Well, and as I mentioned too, that this would be public safety, so, you know, the police be able to use it for their SWAT training and things like that. So there's a lot of different uses for that. And it'll be where other departments in Kaufman County will need to utilize it.
Sure.
Because they'll try to meet that requirement for a drill field. And so, I mean, there could be a fee part of that. And,
Most definitely.
and it allows us to, you know, host a lot of training that will bring people in as well.
Okay. Thank you so much for your presentation. We certainly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, discuss Terrell Animal Control and Vet Contract. Ken, I don't know how you go after that, but let's give it a shot. Police Chief Ken McKeon.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Yes.
If it's going to be a public safety training facility, I want to see a little more blue. Anyway, every March, we have to renew our vet contract, and as part of that process, Will Duff, our senior animal control supervisor, solicits bids for the contract. He solicited Kaufman, Terrell Vet, Reisinger's Pet County Spa, Country Spa, Forney Animal Hospital, and Wills Point, which is the one we currently use, and received one bid back, which was the Wills Point one, and that's what we're looking at tonight. Nobody else sent us any proposals. It pretty much is the same. They've gone up a little bit. Old prices for dog spades went from 65 to 75. That are under 50 pounds, over 50 pounds, 85 to 95. Some of it stayed the same. Some of it went up about $10. There's a couple where it only went up $1 or $2. So overall, it's pretty much the same. We've been really happy with their services that they provide. It's worked out very nicely, and we would like to recommend that we just renew it for the next year.
Well, this is just a discussion item. Does anybody have any questions about the animal facility? All right, thank you, Chief. Next item on the agenda is business items. This is going to be discuss and consider agreement for professional services for wastewater prioritization Phase 3. Assistant City Engineer Mike McKeska.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, last Tuesday, Steve Rogers had presented a presentation that is included in this packet behind the agreement. The presentation starts on page 64. The agenda item in the agreement, actually, that's proposed with Freeze and Nichols starts on page 54. So kind of just a high-level look at this and why we're doing it. The scope of services that's included in this outlines that we would go in and install flow monitors in the system, about 6, and a couple of rain gauges. And the purpose of that is to kind of capture how the system responds to rain events and what kind of flows we're seeing in the system as they peak. And then take a look at the actual capacity of, do some field work of the Rose Hill lift station. And sometimes you get a little different numbers between actual capacity and then the rated capacity of a pump for different reasons. So we want to verify and make sure the pumps are operating properly. So we're going to take a look at that, plug in some numbers into a wastewater model, which will be used to do some projections because of developments that we know about that are in the area. Within that presentation, there are several developments listed on page 77 that are going to be contributing flow to Rose Hill. When we've looked at this in the past, we know that the recommended improvement is, the current estimate is about $18 million to relocate Rose Hill lift station. And we're trying to identify potential interim improvements that'll, because of these developments, between the crossroads, market center upgrade and so forth, and then the housing and other developments that are going on that are going to be contributing flow into the Rose Hill lift station. So basically this is a look to see if there's an opportunity to spend less than 18 or $20 million and get some real benefit for several years. So the recommendation is what we've negotiated with Freeze is $147,400 that would come out of the UCR. And so we are recommending to authorize the city manager to enter into an agreement with Freeze and Nichols for that amount, not to exceed $147,400.
Thank you, Mike. And for those who are listening or watching, UCR stands for Utility Capital Reserve Fund. All right, does anybody have any questions? Y'all reviewed this last Tuesday. Is there any questions or concerns? Again, this is a not to exceed $147,400 number. Is there a motion? With Freeze and Nichols, correct?
That's correct.
I move to authorize the city manager to enter into a agreement for professional services for wastewater prioritization phase 3 with Freeze and Nichols in an amount not to exceed $147,400.
Thank you, Councilwoman. We have a motion for Mayor Ronnie Velasquez and Mayor Pro Tem District 3. Is there a second?
I second.
I have a second from Grady Simpson, District 2. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor let it be known by stating aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously by those present. Also, a little bit of housekeeping for those who are listening. Item 6.1 and item 7.1 were passed with a unanimous vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda is to adjourn into executive session in accordance with section, consent agenda, I'm sorry. Item 10.1, discuss and consider ordinance number 2904 on second reading. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Terrell, Texas, amending Chapter 9, Section 9-9, Civil Service Classification Plan, A, classification of firefighters, and B, classification of police officers, 9-9A1, positions appointed by Fire Chief, and 9-9A2, firefighter classifications, and 9-9B1, positions appointed by Chief of Police, and 9-9B2, police officers classifications, revised Code of Ordinances of the City of Terrell, Texas, providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Is there a motion on item 10.1?
Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
We have a motion from Mayor Ronnie Velasquez, Mayor Pro Tem District 3. Is there a second?
I second.
I have a second, Grady Simpson, District 2. All those in favor let it be known by stating aye.
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 Again, this motion passes by unanimous vote of all those present. At this time, we'll adjourn into executive session in accordance with Section 551 of the Texas Government Code to discuss the following. Section 551.071, my pay. This time, we're going to reconvene into regular session and consider action, if any, on items discussed in executive session. Are there any motions? We are now adjourned. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Mayor and Council.
So, Mayor and Council,